Waiting for that to happen.
Welcome everybody to St. Joe County Police Department and the jail. I am Sheriff Bill Redman. I've been sheriff for 3 years already, which is hard to believe. It's gone by very quickly. But I just wanted to stop in and welcome everybody here. I apologize for the technical issues. This room is a newly renovated room. It was part of our CARES Act funding that we received from the federal government. We did several jail renovations downstairs, which some of you attorneys have visited and seen those updates downstairs. I attribute a lot of that to our jail staff, of course, and to my legal advisor, Troy Warner. So for those of you who don't know, this is Troy Warner here in the front. After being elected to the office of sheriff, I brought him on as our legal advisor, and he's done one heck of a job and wears many, many hats for our department. So certainly glad to have him on board, and all of our hardworking, dedicated jail staff that do a phenomenal job day in and day out to make sure that they keep this place safe, not only for themselves, but for the inmates that are housed here. So I appreciate everything that they do. But part of this seminar and training today will hopefully benefit all of you to get a better understanding of how we do things here in the jail and why we do things in the jail. I think it's important to help educate one another on the reasons why we do things, and communication, I think, is key. I think Troy has done a phenomenal job keeping all of our local attorneys updated on what's going on here and why we're doing certain things. Obviously, 2020 was a rough year for all of us with COVID. It has continued to be a little hectic. It kind of calmed down. Now it's starting to act up again here. So we do have some positives downstairs, which makes our corrections officers' jobs even that more difficult. So hopefully you'll learn some valuable information today. It's a good time not only to learn, but ask questions. And if you have any concerns, certainly relay them to our staff. I'll let each of the staff members, as they come up and make their presentation, to introduce themselves a little bit and tell you what their role is here at the jail. And as I said earlier, they do a phenomenal job. So I can't be more proud than for the work that they do here. So enjoy. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. And again, sorry for the little technical issues. All this is new to us. The high-tech stuff is great until we have issues with it, and then it's difficult at times. So thank you and welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kylie Williams. I'm a corporal here. I work in the booking division. Been here about 5 years now. I'm gonna go over how we bring people in, what we do in the booking area. A little general information. The jail was opened in 2000. Our maximum capacity is 823 inmates. Current population, 682, it says. I think we're up to 670 something today. 671. St. Joe County is a federal holding facility along with the housing inmates for the state. We have a medical unit, there's housing, 4 different units, and then there's special booking or housing and booking. So booking is the most important area in the jail. All information regarding the inmates run through the booking. Each shift have 4 to 5 seasoned deputies working booking. Duties of the booking officers: processing new intakes, releasing inmates, completing video court, completing all paperwork sent over by the courts and the prosecutors. So when an intake is brought into our facility, they start in the vestibule. They're patted down for contraband and weapons. All personnel property is taken and logged on a property sheet we have. This includes all cash the person has on them, as well as knives. The cash and the pocket knives are placed in an envelope and kept separate from their property. The cash is put on their books at the end of the shifts, so they can buy commissary, phone cards, stuff like that. Arresting officer completes a field copy of the arrest. The form includes the pending charges from the officer, arrest location and time, arresting and transporting officer along with personnel information. This includes questions that the officers need to answer. A nurse would then come out for every intake, do the pandemic. Every intake, temperature is taken, a series of COVID questions are asked. The inmate's temperatures are then, or the inmate's temperature and the answers or questions will determine where they go inside the jail. If an inmate was involved in a motor vehicle accident, the arresting officer did not take them to the hospital. A non-crash report would be completed by the officer. The information on this form includes how fast the person was driving, where the accident occurred, if the airbag deployed, if the person was in any pain. And our on-duty supervisor will then be called out to the intake vestibule. They'll go over the form and ask the detainee questions about the accident. If the airbag was deployed, we have to refuse the inmate and they must go to the hospital and be seen by a doctor and cleared before we can accept them. Once all the proper paperwork is completed, a nurse has cleared the intake, the booking officer will sign the field copy and the jail staff will take custody of the inmate and will take them inside. There's a few reasons why we want to accept an inmate. They have to be cleared by a doctor for the following reason. If their PBT level is, which is the alcohol level, is higher than 0.25, involved in an accident with airbag deployment, there was possible head injury. A nurse will determine if the intake is safe, that needs to be seen the hospital prior to acceptance. So once they're brought in from the vestibule, they go walk past our cell sense machine. This machine is a portable metal detector. It also detects cell phones if they have one on them. Then they're placed in the intercept body scanner. This machine takes a body image and will show if any intake is attempting to bring contraband into the jail. From there, they'll be showered out and dressed into a jail uniform. Once dressed, they're escorted to the booking desk. At the booking desk, the process continues. We bring in collecting all the information, such as name, date of birth, social security number, phone number, marital status, religion preference, height, weight, eye color, skin tone. The charges are then entered into the inmate's jacket or profile, what we call it. Another series of questions are asked, which is the initial classification paperwork. Those questions are signed by both the inmate and the booking officer, and then given to our classification officer. Those questions will determine where they're placed throughout the jail. The booking staff completes the medical intakes on all the intakes. Once a booking officer completes the form, the nurse will be called out to ask them the same series of questions, and then they will sign it with the inmate. They will then get their pictures and fingerprints done. And then once that's completed, they'll be moved down to our pre-class unit before they can get classified. When an inmate's booked into the jail, it's a booking officer responsibility to set a court date or a 48-hour time for that inmate. When an inmate is booked in on a felony, we enter a 48 time in our jail tracker. That's as long as we can hold them without having formal charges. When those charges are filed and sent to us, we move that 48-hour time and set a court date for the next date the court is in session at 1 o'clock for the felonies. When an inmate is booked in on probation violation, we set a 15-day timeline. All inmates brought into on probation violations must be either seen by a judge or a bond must be set on the 15th day. If we do not receive it either, they have to be released with a court date. And all misdemeanors will go to court the next day that they have session. Under Sheriff Redman, the St. Joe County Jail has begun performing felony video courts for all superior cases. This has helped reduce the number of inmates leaving the jail at once, reduce the risk of security issues. The Superior Video Court as following. Judge Steele has Mondays and Wednesday at 8. Monargo has Tuesday at 9 a.m. Judge Sanford Wednesday at 9 a.m. Judge Hurley has Thursday at 8 a.m. And then Friday, any judge can call over and schedule. They have a list they go through. Booking staff has coordinated with the court's clerks prior to the court starting, so the courts and the attorneys know anyone that may need to be seen by themselves or last. And if it may be delayed going to the courtroom. Business Sergeant Finn's attempt to speeding up court and stopping the court from waiting on us. We have afternoon video court as well. Afternoon video court starts at 1 p.m., beginning with the new felonies, and then misdemeanor court will follow. Due to the pandemic, we are not allowing anyone in the courtrooms. If you have a client that you need to speak with prior to court, please contact Sergeant Finn by email, and he'll set up a time to speak with him over the phone. That's all I have. I don't have any of those. Anyone have any questions? Yeah.
How do you determine if somebody gets placed in suicide?
We have a series of questions that we ask them. We have some red flag questions if they answer yes to them. Yeah,
Somebody comes in once to jail and put in suicide watch, say they get released, and 6 months later they're arrested, but they automatically put back in, or they go through?
it depends. So if they've seen a doctor and got released, they don't have to. And when they get out of jail, if they're still on suicide watch, we let them know they can go to the open doctor from the outside. And they fax us over a paperwork so you have to go back on.
They don't get that clearance. They go back.
Correct.
If the blood alcohol is too high, where do they go?
They go to the hospital and get cleared. And then even if they're over 2.5 when they come back, so as long as they're cleared by a doctor, we let them come in.
Quarantine pods for COVID?
Yeah.
They come in, like, are they automatically quarantined?
We ask them a serious questions, the nurse does. If they have a fever or any symptoms, then they go in quarantine. And they're kept separate.
Where's the field copy of arrest and non-hospital crash reports that the arresting officers do? Where are those sent? Are those kept in-house here at the jail, or is that? So,
Yeah,
if
we keep the
wanted to see-
original.
If we wanted to see one of those reports, we would check with Troy.
Yeah. I've got mine pulled up, so as long as it doesn't freeze or anything like that.
Just hit enter, you should be good.
Some of the inmate files, and a lot of medical records. Like for the medical records, as long as you're the attorney in the case, I generally won't require any kind of release on that.
Is the jail tracker manual? I've read about this issue in the newspaper.
Is it what?
Is it manual? I know there've been some issues around computation of people's outcome.
I mean, we put everything in there. We put everything in there manually.
But I guess what I'm asking is the math on the jail tracker.
We do that.
In the past, there was a way in the system to put in a sentence, and it would compute the outdate, and that was happening with the previous booking commanders ago, and it was computing them wrong. And now we do them manually.
Found the program wasn't computing right, and it was causing the errors. Right.
A math.
The man.
For like felonies, can you explain to me the process of like how you guys meet with an inmate for like the felony pretrial services report?
How you would come in and meet with them?
Like how you guys assist, or like this probation reach out to them? And
Yeah, Sierra 26 comes in and talks to them.
So if they refuse to participate in that, do they get like another chance to do that, or is it just like
No, I mean, they still get to see a judge. That is not them seeing a judge being a bond.
I just noticed sometimes on the report it says like refuse to participate. And then like sometimes like the judge, like they use that against them or something, but can that also be because they were like in isolation due to COVID? And that's why they were.
We let them know if they're in isolation. The CR26 lady that comes in, we let them know that you can't see them because they're in isolation. I'm not sure how she computes that too.
I will tell you, we have a bunch of veterans downstairs. But I think somebody would have that. Like point something. I'd say more than that. So we start seeing those refuses.
What does that mean if they refuse? They just
They
like
don't
don't
wanna come
talk to you guys?
They don't want to come down and speak to nobody.
What do you like ask them during those? Like,
I always tell them who's here to see them. And then what it's for basically, and it's up to them if they want to come down or not.
Who do we ask for the outdate, this out report, our client sentence, certain sentence, credit time, and you're saying you're doing that manually. If we wanted a copy of that outdate report, who would we ask?
So how it works is when we get the order from the judge, we put the order in, whoever puts the order in, we're putting out the outdate. And then they have now, since the whole issue with the computer getting the wrong outdate, we have 2 or 3 people check it, and then Sergeant Finn is the last person to check it. And then he finalizes it, make sure the right outdates in the system.
If we wanted a copy of that report, who would we ask?
Sergeant Finn, you can call booking.
There is no report.
Yeah.
There's no report. It's just date that's in the jail tracker software.
Is there a way we can get a copy of what's in that jail record?
Maybe I'll talk to Finn. If
All
there's
right, thank
something we could do a print screen or something of it. There's no print.
There isn't.
Jail tracker doesn't do any kind of printout of anything.
So there's only the outdate shown.
Yeah,
There's nothing that shows how they arrived at that outdate.
we use the,
DOC has a,
calculators.
thank you, yes, a calculator on the Indiana website. And we'll use that to double check as well, and you can put in credit time, you can put in, what
What their sentences, when they got sentenced, when
Yeah.
the credit cards stop, and then there's like a little,
what
math
credit
on
they
the
I
have.
understand how you're explaining that you arrived at that outdate. My question is that, do you save or keep, or is there any question about that outdate? The calculations that were used, going to that website, and plugging in the sentence, plugging in the credit time, plugging in a class A or B credit level to say, okay, this is how many days he has to serve, so this will be the outdate. You don't keep a screen or a document that shows how that was done. You just plug in that outdate. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah.
Thanks.
I got a question sort of along that line because I have a client, in fact, he's still in here at the present time, and he gets an outdate sentence and it's an outdate, and then as soon as that outdate gets here, they said, oh, that's not his outdate, he's got a different one, so they moved it down to another one, and then that second one came up, and now it is just recently got set, they got a new outdate.
so sometimes what happens is if they have, say, like 2, 3, 4 different cases, say they have 2 felonies and a misdemeanor, they will do whatever that first outdate is. They'll put that in, and then once that one's time served, they go to the next one and then the outdate for that one. They don't put the outdate for all of them, so they can keep track of when, say, the misdemeanor is time served, we can time serve it in the system. So it shows that he's completed that case, and then we have them written in there when the next outdate is.
So they don't just take each and every sentence, this guy had like 3 or 4 different cases.
Yeah,
Different times or whatever, and of course, obviously, if it's on misdemeanors or level 6s, you just day for day, but if it's otherwise, you're given, it's gotta do 3/4 of your time, but his things was that each time we turn around, they don't compute, go through and say, okay, here's all. here's
we
the
don't add them
total.
all up anymore. We divide them, we separate them. So when the first case is done and that outdate comes up, we can time serve it, and then we look at the next one whenever it's time, whenever that date is up, then we put that date in the system. And then when that date comes down, we're time serve that one and put the last one in there.
That makes sense. Why all of a sudden you keep getting it every time you turn around.
I have a question from the online people. They want to know when someone is brought into booking and it's
clear they have mental health issues, how is that handled, especially at that point, Jesus to take them? Where is the state of his or her mental health background?
So when they come in, if they have any type of, or we believe any type of bizarre behavior, or even like it's drug use, anything like that, we do open referral, and we document that, and then they see our open counselor.
Somebody else asked for contact information for the speakers. I don't know, generally, I know you mentioned Sergeant Finn, is that everybody has his info? I know his email's been referenced.
I can give that to you.
Okay. I'll get that up. for you.
Ready for the next topic here?
That's a lot of questions. I've never seen that many questions. in the CLE. Sorry.
All right, we're going to shift gears here. This is a little bit of a topic that may be not the norm for some individuals to sit up here and explain about rapes or sexual assaults that happen in prisons. My name is Lieutenant Jason Wisniewski. The font's a little small for who's in the back, but the PCM stands for the PREA Coordinator and Manager. I started off my career here. This is my 18th year here with the department. In 2017, I attended the Public Agency Training Council, PREA, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act, basically prevention course. Teaches correctional officers how to become investigators when somebody were to report some sort of sexual crimes, whether it's consensual or non-consensual in our facility. Jeff Carter was the instructor that certified me in 2017. I went back to see Jeff Carter in 2019. And then today, I'm sorry, just 2 weeks ago, I was with Dr. Paris Spencer with PATC for recertification. I mean, once you're an investigator, there technically really isn't a recert. As long as you're following the PREA guidelines, you're good as gold. But I've tried to go every 2 years just to keep myself educated with current changes within PREA law. 2003, President George Bush signed into law for victims, advocates, attorneys, and survivors who's been striving for more than 2 decades to shed light on issues of sexual abuse and misconduct behind bars. Something that we talk about is what's called conditions of incarceration. Basically, the mindset of the men and women that once you take their liberties and freedoms away, they become different individuals. A lot of you are esteemed colleagues and attorneys, and one of the things that I recently learned was a question of how many times do you hear in the news male on male rapes being reported on news today? Any show of hands, any current cases that you know of? You know how many I investigated last month? 4 in a month. Been doing this since 2017. So again, it's taboo topics like this that is my job to increase reporting, to increase awareness, and to increase the safety of the men and women in our facility. So we're going to take a little bit of a journey today. This is a 16-hour course that I attend. I teach about an hour and a half of this to my new cadets every time they come in. So glazing through this, there's subgenres and subcategories of subcategories that we can get into. Of course, we don't have that time today. So we're going to give you a little bit of what's PREA, what type of actions in our facility designates a PREA reportable action, what my investigators look into, how we come to our conclusions of our investigation, and then how individuals, the men and women of our facility, can report these actions. Okay. So consent and non-consenting. I guess it would be a little naive of any of us to realize that once we, again, take the conditions of incarceration and you strip down the basic needs and necessities of a human being, everybody wants, for the most part, to live and survive, correct? So they want to continue on down the road to live. Everyone needs to eat, right? Everyone gets hungry. What about our carnal desires or lust for the body, right? When we have conditions of incarceration, because PREA is enacted, we can't be naive to the fact that men and women want to have sexual intercourse with each other in a penological jail or prison setting. So consent, consensual sex between inmates are not tolerated or condoned and to be treated as in-house violations. Can love blossom behind bars? Absolutely. There have been many cases that I've investigated that men and women, women and women, and men have found love behind bars and they've had consensual sex. Consensual sex with a staff member and an inmate is a felony in the state of Indiana. And in-house violations of up to in-house disciplinary segregation and punishment when we do find out that there is consensual sex happening. Non-consenting sex is obviously a pre-reportable violation. And that's when my investigators and myself as the PCM steps in and has to secure the scene, secure our victims, make sure that not only the mental health aspect of our victims are being taken care of, but justice is also served for the actions that were taken against them. Often considered deviant sexual acts. So obviously that somebody performs a rape, obviously there's some sort of a deviant behavior, deviant thought processes that are in that individual's mind, especially if it's forceful. What constitutes pre-allegation? So who can so we're going to take that last question and we're going to answer that in the next slide. So who can violations be reported on? They can occur between inmates and inmates, because we already said that there's consensual sex that happens throughout the nation in jails, penological institutions, and prisons. Staff members on inmates, contractors on inmates. So let's talk about contractors. We have individuals in this facility that are not directly employed by the sheriff's department. We have individuals that provide food service and nourishment for our individuals. Those are contractors. We've got medical staff that is not part of our facility that we contract with, contractors. We've got members of the maintenance department that service our building that aren't direct members of my staff that we contract with. So there are contractors that have had sexual altercations with the men and women in jail facilities. We also have volunteers. What kind of volunteers do we have? We've got clergymen and religious entities that come into our facility. We have men and women that come and serve classes for drug abuse, substance abuse, mental health awareness, things like that. Not saying that everybody that I've listed have deviant sexual behaviors in their thoughts, but those are the things that as a PCM that I have to screen and educate on the individuals that come into our facility. So there's one of 6 different categories that our pre-allegations can fall into. So number 1 would be non-consensual, involves unwanted contact with another detainee or with a staff member, contractor, or volunteer that includes oral sex, anal penetration, vaginal penetration, or any type of fondling with hands, including the vulva. For those that aren't 100% educated on female anatomy, PREA includes clitoris hood, the clit, labia minor, labia majora, and the vaginal opening. So any type of fondling with hands of any of those areas, we as a pre-investigator will fall under a non-consensual allegation. Abusive sexual contact is reserved for strictly inmate on inmate behavior. They are unwanted contacts with another detainee that involves touching of the buttocks, the thigh, the penis, breast, vulva in a sexual way. Ever the stereotypical coach, hey, good game, smack on the butt, right? How innocent if you're consoling somebody touching the thigh. Hey, you're having a bad day. Usually those are techniques or areas that you test the waters for grooming. If I can touch this individual's thigh, how close am I to a hip? How close am I to the genitalia? If I smack somebody on the butt and tell them, hey man, good play, good game, and there's no, hey, I don't like that, it's inappropriate touching. Well, he was perfectly fine for me to smack him on the butt. How far can I continue to take this, right? Staff sexual misconduct, touching only, refers to contact by staff members that involve touching of the detainee's buttocks, thighs, penis, breast, vulva in a sexual way unrelated to an official duty, where staff members, contractors, volunteers have an intent to abuse, arouse, or gratify their sexual desires. So real quick, I'm going to flip the script and ask you a question. You understand that men and women in this facility need to be touched physically for contraband, correct? Right? People coming off the streets, as Ms. Williams said, that we pat people down. Not everything that officers pat down on the streets aren't always found on the streets. We found weapons, guns, knives, drugs, needles. So when we go through those areas of touching, most of the time we take our bladed hand or the back of our hand and we have to search under wire bras. We have to search around the breasts and the groins. And as long as we don't feel anything that's not what we call natural feeling, okay, if I go across and have to search those areas and I smack something that feels unnatural, that's a good warrant for me to go, I think there's something in this gentleman's boxer shorts or undergarment. Thank goodness that we have the SelfSense technology and we have the body scanner that we have here to catch those extra pieces that may get fall through the cracks. But again, yeah, no pun intended. Yeah. But, you know, if those weren't the hot areas to conceal drugs and weapons, like your anal cavity and underneath your genitalia, you know, those wouldn't be the areas that we need to focus on and concentrate. So why I did that is because there's a highlight on here. Just because I run my leg, my hands up your leg, and maybe the back of my hand touches a man's testicles, he may not feel comfortable with that. But that's an official duty that we have, that he can't just go run back to his cell and report that I had a PREA violation with staff members. We talked about consensual sex. Here's willing sex with staff members. Describe sexual relationships between an employee, contractor, or volunteer and a detainee. Such relationships are inherently coercive in nature, and correctional standards assert the individuals in custody cannot consent to sex with staff. Sometimes in that particular thing, it's a power struggle, okay? Now, I've got power over you. I'm a staff member. Maybe I've given an inmate something that they were not allowed to have. Now, do they have control over me because I've broken a violation or broken a rule? So those inmates have power over us if I've got a staff or a guard that's not following policies and procedures in fear of retaliation of getting fired or prosecuted. So now this willing sex then becomes basically a power struggle, that I'm in control or I have something or some kind of power over you. And those are the type of things that we have to get to the bottom of as the PCM and investigators. Voyeurism has been added this year to our lineup. Refers to inappropriate visual surveillance of individuals in custody for reasons unrelated to officers' official duties. There is a unreason, not a, how do I quote this? There is, I had it in my head, I had it memorized. The men and women in this facility shouldn't think that there's not a reasonable expectation of privacy, okay? We have to constantly surveillance this facility with closed circuit television. My staff members are constantly keeping our despondent inmates on the suicide watch program that have to be checked on a regular basis. Sometimes you walk around and see them using the toilet. Sometimes you have to check on them to make sure that there's no hijinks happening in the shower areas, correct? There are areas of our facility that our closed caption television areas record in a common area. Can I see somebody using the restroom in the common area? Yes. Do I see on our closed circuit television the shower areas? Yes. But as a PCM, if I find somebody zooming in on those areas on a consistent basis, leaving the cameras zoomed in the shower stall, whether it be the men's slice, the women's slice, those are red flag behaviors for me as a PCM to go, there may be some deviant thoughts happening amongst staff members or contractors or volunteers in terms of voyeurism that we have to pay attention to. Harassment is our final topic, which is of the verbal nature, okay? There's not an employer in this facility or employer throughout the world that shouldn't have some sort of harassment or sexual harassment policy, no tolerance in play, and PREA is no exception. Harassment describes any behavior that meets the agency's definition of sexual abuse and assault and does not involve physical contact up to including indecent exposure, but not to include voyeurism. Voyeurism was lumped into the harassment, but they've since my last training, those have been broke up. So if you look at the letter A, we talk about repeated and unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or verbal comments, gestures, or actions of a derogatory nature. Comments about body, clothing, up to including obscene language. So it's not really like your get out of jail free card, but what we have to isolate in our investigations is the term repeated, to where if somebody makes a comment, what we call water cooler humor, okay, and somebody gets offended by that, then that needs to be a knock it off. This isn't tolerable. And then if that particular situation happens again, then we can report it as a verbal harassment under the Prison Rape Elimination Act. Okay. So my investigators are motivated into looking into our MMO. So I don't want this to happen to anybody in the future. My goal is to eliminate this in our facility by learning the structure of our facility, learning where the pockets or blind spots in our facility so these things can't happen. Obviously, we can't have surveillance cameras in every single inch of this facility. So there are pockets and blind spots that my investigators and staff need to know exist. And that's how we prevent things like this from happening. So does our perpetrator have a motive? What was the driving force behind the sexual deviant act? Did they have the means? Did the perpetrator have the tools available to them to perform their act? And did they have the opportunity to? Did the perpetrator have access to the facility to which the allegation happened? Did they have enough privacy without any witnesses to have these happen? And was there any cooperation? Because if there's cooperation, then we have what we call consensual or willing, which it could be an in-house violation where they need to be separated versus something that we need to investigate to go and prosecute. Okay. We've got 3 findings. There shouldn't be anything unnew to your realm. We've got substantiated an allegation that was investigated and determined to have occurred. I will file under unfounded an allegation that was investigated and determined not to have occurred. And then unsubstantiated means the allegation was investigated and the investigation produced insufficient evidence to make final determination as to whether or not the event occurred. One of the subgenres or subcategories of this is the LGBTQ community and all of the individuals that transitioning into whatever their lifestyle is desired through. We've got transgender men, transgender women, gender fluid, and all the other identifiers that we're recently seeing. So one of the big things that we investigate just really quick is there's a lot of individuals that are now becoming exposed to the LGBTQ community through the conditions of incarceration. And because they haven't been part of that movement or haven't experienced the support or have been or lived with somebody that identifies in that community, that a lot of our investigators are having individuals that are uncomfortable with stereotypes and uncomfortable with living with somebody who they think may be part of that community. So they will create reports that we have to wade through what's true and what's false. When we get down to it, the basics is they're kind of uncomfortable with the conditions of incarceration of living with somebody that is either openly part of that community or because of the way they talk, they carry themselves, they're stereotyping those particular type of individuals. So again, those are subcategories we could go on for a while, but let's talk about prior reporting. A population can report in person to current correctional staff or administrative personnel. That becomes a little difficult because if your colleagues as an inmate see you talking to me, you're a snitch. And we know snitches get, there you go, that's the stigmata, right? So especially as an investigator, I'm 6 foot 300 pounds. Okay, I'm not afraid to announce that, but I may look like an attacker for a female that's went through a pre-episode. So if I look like somebody that's offended her or violated her in the past, how open do you think she's going to be with me? Probably not. So I have a team of 6 investigators, 3 females, 3 male officers. So I have a good mix and variety of men and women that can, do cases together, investigate cases individually. Ultimately, everything comes through me as the PCM to see how we need to progress forward with our reporting. There's non-contact reporting. So we get basically inmate request forms, or we get paperwork that's mailed to us that has basically the events that had transpired that we need to investigate. So we can receive anonymous letters in the mail and have to investigate. Can inmates confide in parties other than correctional staff? Absolutely. Religious leaders. Again, we talked about drug treatment instructors. We have our nursing staff. Through Global Telelink, which is our telecommunications system, we do have an 800 number that they can confide in, like basically like a voicemail. And then once they've reported on that hotline, it goes to my email and gives me a text alert that somebody has activated that 1-800 line for me to investigate. One last thing, let's talk about statistics. 61,316 completed investigations from 2012 through 2015. Correctional officials decided that 5,187 allegations, or only about 8.5%, were found to be true. For most allegations, correctional officers determined that either the report was false or there was not enough evidence to decide either way. So that's a very low number, 8%. So it's my job as the PCM to increase reporting, to encourage reporting, to train staff on where the pockets and blind spots of the facility are, to be observant, to have extra patrol in those particular areas, to eliminate any type of sexual deviance that goes on within our facility. Thank you for your time. Do you have any questions? Again, it's a taboo subject. It's something that may be a little uncomfortable for some individuals to hear, but we can't be naive to the fact that it exists. Yes, sir.
Is there any advice that you could get as defense lawyers we give our clients if we suspect they might be vulnerable coming into jail to serve a sentence?
Sure. We have our classification screening. Basically what I call our frontline officers, or the officers that will be giving the pat downs and booking. There are times, or oftentimes, nonverbal indicators or cues that we can pick up on without blatantly asking, you know, on the nose if somebody's part of the LGBTQ community, because not everybody is out and acknowledges that lifestyle. But if individuals are afraid that they may be preyed upon, there are protective measures that we do have in place that can offer them single cell assistance without being part of a population. Unfortunately, that does hinder some of their liberties that they get to have through our facility. So those are things that, oh, you're transgender by yourself. Those aren't things that I'm willing to accept. There's got to be understanding throughout the community that's in here that this is going to be a norm that they're going to see throughout the rest of their life moving forward. But again, it's not something that we're going to fix. We're not going to fix somebody that feels the way that they feel. But making sure that they're safe, keeping them alive, and making sure they're moved down the road is my primary objective of being a correctional officer. So, yes, ma'am.
So then do you conduct trainings or classes for the other inmates about LGBTQ issues?
That is something that we haven't had, to my knowledge. I know a lot of, because of COVID, we've suspended a lot of education because of foot traffic throughout our facility. PREA awareness is available through posters in our kiosk. Obviously, my staff, every new cadet that comes in gets at least an hour and a half of my training. And then obviously, if anybody wants or is encouraged to become an investigator for me, we will give you the proper training through the proper authorities through PATC. But again, that'd be a dialogue that obviously must and couldn't be addressed in the future. I just don't have a curriculum right now that I can express those teachings at this time. Yes, ma'am.
You referenced PCM. What's that stand for?
That is the PREA coordinator manager. Yeah, the PCM, according to PREA's hierarchy, the PCM shouldn't be involved in investigations, or the investigators bring all of their findings to me and I resume or look over that. If there's something that I think they missed, or another avenue that we may need to investigate. Real quick, if I have individuals that say that they've reported consensual sex, I will split those individuals up. We'll put what we call a conflict in between them. And then I want to revisit them, because I don't want one party to say it was consensual, but then it was coerced or forced later down the road and that falls through the cracks. So there is repeat investigating that can happen depending on what category it falls under. Sorry, I'm a little long-winded, so I apologize.
Warden, let's keep it going.
All right, I've got to go pick my child up from school, so thank you, everybody. If you need contact information on the station, we did it, so 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thank you.
Unlike him, I am not long-winded, so this will be short and sweet, I promise you. My name is Russ Holmes, I'm the warden. If you guys didn't know, Julie retired back in April, and I officially took over for her in June. So it's been quite the adventure. I got a hell of a crew downstairs. They do a heck of a job, so I'm actually excited to see this happening. I think we need to do this more often to get you guys involved and let you guys know what's going on downstairs and update with you anything that's happening. So if you guys haven't heard, we have a new medical thing started December 1st. That's one of the first things I wanted when I took over the spot, to get a medical that comes in that myself has to be in charge of. We can have WellPath, whoever else. So we have gone with WellPath. So effective December 1st, WellPath is taken over. Downstairs is like a city. We have 683 inmates. So we have medical here 24 hours a day. We do 4 med passes, 3P, 3A, 6P, 6A. We have a nurse practitioner that comes in every morning for an hour to check on the inmates. So it's, sorry, I shouldn't be. So anyways, I get off topic. So yeah, I'm excited for what's happening in the future with WellPath. So you have any questions on this? Go ahead, sorry.
During med passes, what's the purpose of that? Inmates, talk to the nurse about medical complaints, or is that just for medical?
So med pass is offered for medical complaints, but also hand out meds to inmates. So if there's any type of medication, I'll get it then. So that's just designated times. Yes, sir.
Medications, oftentimes get calls from parents, family of people who have been recently arrested and they have medication they have to have. They don't have it, if they're ill. But my understanding is that outside medication is not allowed in the jail. So how do you can get their meds as quickly as they need them?
In the past, I don't know how WellPath is going to be moving forward, but we've had a lot of people drop off in the front lobby, especially with HIV meds. Those are pretty expensive. The last thing once been is something like $7,000. We have to drop them off.
Okay, so families can drop medication off?
As of right now, but come December 1st, I do not know how that's going to go with our company coming out. That could all change by then.
You let us know.
Yes, sir. I do want to say thank you to all your attorneys for being patient with us these past couple of years. It's been a long road, especially this COVID. You guys had to wait for hours out there, that's still in the lobby. So I do appreciate your patience. I know a lot of you guys can just talk through emails. If you need anything, please reach out. I'm more than happy to do what I can to help you guys out. Yes, sir.
Oakland still providing services?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we did EPO. That's one thing. They've been a great asset to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're still with us. All right, anybody else?
All right, well, I'm not gonna try this. I did have a PowerPoint, but with everything that's going on, that's right, Troy, I'll just wing it. I got it on a flash drive.
Oh, it's not on here yet?
No, it's not on there, so I'm not worried about it.
Okay. I think you're at
Mine won't be very long anyways either. All right, so I'm Sergeant Ryan Olmsted. I'm the warden of the Brother. I've been, sorry.
You're the brother of the warden.
I'm a little nervous. It's all good. But I've been here almost 16 years, started in 2005. Moved up the ranks and I became a cab officer, which is conduct adjustment board. What I'm in charge of is if a staff member writes up individual or inmate down in the slice, I am in charge of either finding them guilty, not guilty, or giving them sanctions of what that might be. Some reports I do throw out. Some reports I do find them guilty, but I don't give them, if they're gonna give me information on certain things down in the pods, then I'll give them a lesser sentence, but it is a progressive. So they'll start it off from the beginning, they'll get something low. Then it's if they keep acting up, just like your kids, you just keep taking more and more things away, okay? Reference GTL. I can take away phone calls. I can set it from a certain date. So I can set it from today and then set it till 5 days later, and then it'll automatically come back on. Same thing with video visitation. A lot of you guys are, you can go online, GTL visit me, I think that's what it's called, and sign up. But if you have not signed up and you do sign up, you need to send your credentials to the captain and the warden, and then they'll approve it that way. Okay. For you guys, as far as if you want to do video visitation with your clients, what is it, 24 hours in advance for you to sign up? Their family members is 48 hours. Okay. But remember one thing, there's one kiosk in each day room. So it kind of bogs it down a little bit, taken away from the family. Okay. When they come into booking, they do get a PIN number. After an hour, a PIN number will generate, and the booking staff will give that inmate, before they are moved anywhere in the facility, that PIN number. Is that inmate's a responsibility to have that PIN number, and then they can change it to whatever they need to be. Now, sometimes down the road, we have brain farts, like I just had one just a minute ago, and they lose their PIN numbers. We have access to our Sergeant Finn back there, the booking commander, Corporal Williams. We have the option of changing those PIN numbers. That way they can get back on the phones. Keefe, which is our commissary, same thing. They also have PIN numbers, which they get those. I think they get those. It's the same thing as what they're, I think, GTL, right? So they can order commissary. Same. And as far as sanction with those guys and ladies, I can take that away also, but I have to manually go back in and make sure that they can still get their commissary after their sanction times are up. With that being said, if I do find an individual guilty on an incident report, that falls down to classification. Once classification is next, it could either up their class level, or it'll keep their class levels same. So as far as anything else, anyone got any questions?
Does any of this affect the good time credits?
It does not affect it, but the thing is, some of these individuals are acting up a little bit too much. We are trying to get it to where we take away good time, because we're getting sprinkler heads broken. We're getting multiple stuff broken inside the facility that we got to stop this. Yes. Yes. And it's even in the handbook too. And next week or the week after, we're all getting together and we're going to put the actual handbook on the kiosk machines. So what's going to happen is once they get on that kiosk machine, they won't be able to do anything until they read that handbook. So everything's going to be on that. Another thing I'm in charge of is the grievance procedures. Inmate writes a grievance. All those grievances come to me, and I number them and then have them go out to the designated areas to where they need to be answered. So I do quite a bit. Anybody got any questions?
CAB write-ups in your adjudications. I think I've seen that before, but are these records that we can access? Can I subpoena those records?
Sure, you could. Yeah.
I'm thinking we have one client that was a repeat customer here. So I think I may have seen these records, but maybe because it comes up in sentencing.
Right. And I do know that the judges asked for that too. So
We've been seeing that a lot by the federal judge that have lately, asking for their behavior here in the jail. They've been hitting pretty good on sentencing on the federal level, so I don't think any of the state judges have started doing that yet, but I know the federal judges have.
And their behavior issues can follow them to prison as well.
Correct, because the paperwork does follow them. Classification makes a packet and then it'll go with them to RDC and then go from there. Anything else? All right.
I do have a PowerPoint, Troy, if you don't mind helping me.
You got a PowerPoint, right? You got a PowerPoint.
Yeah,
You gotta have it.
I don't have to have it, but I don't want to forget things.
Okay, if the whole system crashes, it's your fault, Jack. Holy smokes, got a lot on here.
That's it there.
That one?
Yep.
I can't see to put it in presentation.
That's actually his.
Oh.
I don't know how I got it on. I can do it without it. I don't want to take up a bunch of time. That one's mine.
That one's yours. Okay. And I'm gonna put you in presentation mode.
You can drag it, right? Drag it off to the.
Yeah, I'm gonna put them in presentation mode first. From the beginning. Then you should be able to just over, yep, over and back. Your 2 arrows there, Jack.
All right, thank you.
You're very welcome, sir.
My name's Sergeant Jack Peppers. I'm the supervisor for our classification division here at the jail. I've been here since 2010. I've worked in classification almost my entire career here. About 6 months I worked on the floor, and then I was promoted into classification. For a short while during my career, I went back out onto the floor in the jail and worked on the shifts. And then I went back into classification after about 2 years. So all but about 3 years of my career have been in classification years. So it's pretty much what I know the most of the jail. You not, working out on the floors as much, you kind of forget that stuff, but class I've been pretty consistent in, and in 2018, they selected me to run that division. So the way that we classify here at the jail is with an objective classification system. Jail standards state your classification system has to be objective, cannot be subjective. Each inmate basically has to be classified using the same criteria for each person. Where they fall into that will depend on their background and their current charges, things like that, which we'll get into. But each person has to be classified the same. Currently, we have, it's a fledgling system that we're getting going. We're actually going to be the first county in the state of Indiana that will have it actually on a computer program. The system is called Guardian. And it's actually being created by our previous warden, Bill Wilson, who's the president of the Indiana Sheriff's Association, and I believe they have some other colleagues that are helping them get this running. It's still under development. One of the things I actually take pride in is this jail has actually created this program. Basically, they made up the paperwork and stuff, and we've worked all the kinks out for them. So we've done a lot of work with it. Still kind of getting things going with it. We've had it for about 1.5 to 2 years. Got most of the kinks worked out. Every now and then we'll kind of run into something new that we haven't ran into, and we'll work those things out as they come. Currently, everything is still done on paperwork, which is a little bit more time consuming. Computer program is being developed. It's actually in process of that right now. COVID has kind of put everything on a halt on that. Otherwise, we may actually have had the program in the jail by now. But I've not got an update on when we'll have that, but it is something that they're working on. Like I said, we'll be the first county in the jail to have this program. This program is used, I believe 6 counties are looking at using this in Indiana. What they would like to do is have it in every county in the state of Indiana, because then every county will be able to coordinate with each other and better keep track of the individuals who are in that program. If they're booked into Kosciuszko, if they're booked into LaGrange, wherever, we'll be able to see what their classification division came up with on them. They'll be able to see what we came up with, and we'll have a better consistent classification process out of it. It's also being used in Alabama. There's a county down there that's it's in beta down there too. So there's 3 custody levels in the Guardian system. Minimum, which is typically low-level offenders, first timers. That's going to be people that don't really have behavior history or are just coming into their careers in the jail. Unfortunately, that is a thing. We have medium custody, which are going to be a wider range of felony charges. You're going to find more people that have past felony convictions, minor to moderate behavior issues. And then maximum are going to be your people with more assaultive charges, major behavior issues, typically are going to have more serious felony convictions and more assaultive behavior histories in the jail. The primary classification is basically the initial classification that each inmate will receive when they come into the jail. And each inmate is classified within 72 hours. And the primary is used to determine basically where they're going to be housed, what their level is going to come out as. And like I said, each person's classified based on the same standards. All minimums are housed with minimum, mediums housed with medium, maximums housed with maximum. That way there is less chance of somebody being preyed upon or someone preying upon someone else. If you have a hardened criminal who's spent the last 20 years of his life in and out of jail, and you got a guy who's been here 3 days for not paying his child support, and you put them in the same cell, chances are child support guy's going to have a rough time. Probably not going to get much to eat. Probably not going to get a lot of the time on his phone card that he bought. So doing it this way helps us to kind of put those inmates with similar similar type of inmate. More serious offenders with more serious offenders, lesser offenders with lesser offenders. This is actually the paperwork that we currently use. It consists of the current charge, which is based on misdemeanor or civil is always, they don't get points for that. That's lower than low, honestly. Then we have low, moderate, high, and highest. Those are all assigned a point value, which was predetermined. That was not decided by the jail. That's how the program has been established. Their most serious felony conviction in the last 10 years, they will get those point values. The charges that fit into those ranges, our previous warden got with the prosecutor, I believe maybe Mr. Warner. Were you a part of the making up of that list? Okay, I think it was just the prosecutor that she was with. And they determined what charge would fall under moderate, high, highest. Obviously, like murder is going to be highest. Theft is a moderate. Low-level crimes such as child support, which would fall under civil, that's going to be 0. Conversion, things like that are all, we have a list downstairs that was made up, and we have to follow that list for those charges and what we should put them at on these categories. Their institutional assault fight history, that also goes back 10 years. If it's a mutual fight, that would be assault with our, I'm sorry. If it's not involving a weapon, it'd be a lesser value. If it's predatory, basically, you're taking a nap, I jumped on top of you and just started beating on you, that's going to be predatory. Assault using a weapon, creating serious injury, that's going to have a higher value also. The inmate's escape history, which would include escape from facilities with or without violence, walkaways, failure to returns, those are all assigned point values. The institutional disciplinary history, which will include the fighting as up there, but also more minor conduct charges that they may get to, such as stealing, lying or falsifying, things like that. Prior convictions in the past 10 years, up here is your most severe, then this one's going to be your second most severe. How much prior DOC time and their age. You'll then add those up, and it will fall under these categories here: minimum 6 or fewer points, 7 to 12 is medium, 13 or more is maximum, and if they acquire 7 or more on these first 4, that makes them a maximum also. We also have different areas where I can use my discretion and give them overrides. So say someone comes out as a maximum, but he's not had any behavior issues in the last 3 or 4 years. He's been in and out of the jail and he's just done his time and went home. I'm going to mark him as good institutional behavior, and I'm going to give him a chance in medium. The lower the custody level, the more opportunity that they have for other things in the jail. So they do want their level to be as low as they can get it. That's one way that we can actually try to combat the negative behavior also. So good institutional behavior, we always try to reward them for that. Obviously, if I have a guy This actually has happened a few times. We will have an inmate who just spent 25, 30 years for murder. He gets out of prison. I can't use that against him because it's past 10 years. But I know that if I put this man in a minimum slice, he's going to control everyone in there because he's institutionalized. That is the type of inmate where I'm going to have to use my discretion, and it's probably going to be better to bump him up into the slice where those type of inmates are typically housed. So there is instances where we'll have to use discretion because they may not naturally come out where they probably should be on that form. So far, we've had it's been pretty consistent on getting them where they need to be. Our fights have reduced greatly. A lot of the conduct that we used to have is really it seems like this is working out better than our old class system is basically what I'm trying to say. We also have a reclassification, which is on or about every 45 days. Sometimes we'll get them done a little bit earlier. Sometimes might be a couple days late. But during reclassification, each inmate will be reclassed using an updated, any updated information. And then the previous things that we've already established on the other forms. This form also, this is a different form, same basis, but a few of the questions are different. Typically, if an inmate is not getting any new behavior stuff and they don't have usually if they fall under that highest, like murder, attempted murder, it's really going to be hard to drop their level down because they're getting 7 points right off the bat. The majority of inmates, if they're not getting into any trouble in the jail, their levels will usually go down when you do the review. Now, for inmates such as someone that has a murder charge or something like that, a previous conviction of murder, and those inmates are behaving themselves because sometimes they do, those are the ones where I will then have to use my discretion to either raise or lower their level according to their behavior at that time too. So just because they have certain charges doesn't mean that they still can't earn their way down. It's still possible. We just have to take different routes to get there. And that is it. That's all I got.
Have to be in a minimum classification to qualify to be a trustee?
Yes, you do. Yep. It's just always been that way. One of the things that we used to do is we had an escape a few years back. I mean, it's public knowledge. It's not anything to hide. Some of the trustee, the qualifications tightened up after that. So now it used to be pretty much if you were a minimum, we'd look at you. Now you have to have a bond that's less than $5,000. We started interacting, trying to keep gang members out of there, cut back on some of the problems that we were having and stuff. So, but minimum, that's the first basic rule. You have to qualify as a minimum. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 questions.
Uh-huh.
Is this facility considered a long-term facility? And then also, what is the longest sentence served in this facility?
I would say that it is considered a long-term facility because the judges will now sentence F6 felonies to the jail. It used to be, they would only sentence misdemeanors to the jail, and that was a year max, I believe. But we also do house feds. So we have some federal inmates that are here 2 or 3 years before they even go to court. But yeah, I would say that we are long-term because we will have sometimes F6s here that the judge might send for over a year, so. I've not seen a sentence like that. Usually they do send those individuals to DOC. I believe that we do have a few in here now that are sentenced for about 1.5 years or so.
Where that comes into play is when they're sentenced on several cases at once. Then, Sergeant Finn could answer that better than the booking commander.
Yeah, usually if it's anything over 366 days served, even a level 6 qualifies for DOC.
Have to be in the abstract.
It has to be an abstract, yes.
We've been getting cooperation with the judge. If you go back to the judge and ask him to amend the abstract to DOC.
Some judges, yes.
No.
Yes.
Not
DOC also will kick it back too. Sometimes DOC will not accept them.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes
DOC
DOC will not accept them, even based off of the abstract. They'll say that they're not eligible.
Well, they're eligible. If you're just telling us that the DOC will just say to the sheriff, we won't take them, even though they're.
No, because they will be not DOC eligible for other reasons.
White collar criminals.
We hold all.
Yeah.
You're looking more at federal.
Yeah.
For that, federal cases are only here for trial, and then once they are sentenced, they get sent to a federal prison. See, Chicago or some in the middle of Oklahoma.
Any other questions? All right, thank you guys for your time.
You don't have a PowerPoint, do you?
Nope.
Good. Just kind of stand by the mic then.
I think mine should just be next.
There it is. Oh, it says. I close them out. Yeah, that one. You got stuff in here?
Mine is. Keep going.
Oh, there was branches.
Oh.
Here's what was in here.
Oh, Peppers was too.
Yeah.
Oh, here we are. That's.
You were all prepared, weren't you? We only needed one PowerPoint. That one. Okay, so it's up and down or left and right.
Here we go. Okay. I am Captain Rachel Zawistowski. I am the assistant warden. I have been here for, oops. I've been here for around 15 years, a little over. I spent my first 6.5 years in booking. I was a shift supervisor for around 8 years, and then I spent the last 1.5 years as the booking commander before Sergeant Finn took over. In June, I became the assistant warden. And so this is all pretty new still. We're still learning. And apparently we're
not sharing.
Not.
It's going.
Oh, cool.
Go ahead.
And we're not very good with tech savvy stuff here. Nope. Okay.
It's going.
It's gone. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about assisting inmates with their needs. That's okay. I'm adding slides here now. We have an inmate services director. It's Deputy Coleman. She assists the inmates with signing up for programs, helping them with making copies, notarizing things. You killed it, it's done. We have a barber that comes in every Thursday. They can request to get their haircut. If they're indigent, they cannot unless they're going to a jury trial. Copies are made for 10 cents a page. Civil action paperwork is collected through Deputy Coleman. She notarizes for $3. She coordinates all of the substance abuse classes, GED classes when we do them for the short amount of time that we did them before COVID. Like women's rap group, stuff like that. She passes out indigent packets. An inmate can receive an indigent packet after 30 days of a $0 balance on their books. We have inmate request forms that I would show you a picture of, but it's not there. Basically, they send us request forms with, and some of you have probably seen them anyway in like their files when you guys get them, but they just put what they need assistance with or what's going on, and we answer them, send them back to them, or we call them down and deal with it, or we deal with it however. We also have grievance forms, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen as well. A grievance is for anything that facility-wise, rules, policies, that the inmates think or feel like they are being treated unfairly, being oppressed. They get turned in. They go to Sergeant Olmsted, who is the grievance guru as well. He will assign them to whoever they should go to because it's based off of, I guess, area of the jail. And then they get answered, get sent back to the inmate, and then a copy is placed in the inmate's file. That's pretty much it. That's all I got. Oh, wow. Okay.
What programs do you have that are actually available predominantly for pretrial?
At the moment, we don't have any. Everything is shut down from COVID. Before COVID, GED was only going for a couple of months. We have various Bible studies, substance abuse. So there's women's rap group. Sorry, said that.
You're saying they've all been suspended?
Everything has been suspended.
What's the name? If you want to file a motion for a client, death of a child, death of a parent, and see if the court would issue an order allowing the sheriff to transport for reviewing.
Like a furlough?
What's it called?
Like a furlough? Basically, all we need is an order from the judge.
I know.
Yeah, you're
You
just
gotta
talking
file a
about-
motion, the state's gotta be notified.
Yeah, you're just talking about temporary visit to go to funeral home.
Yeah, what's that name of that? Call it something, I guess. Is your policy generally so many hours, Troy, in terms of asking for the motion, is it
It's
confined to?
It's been whatever the
No,
judge
that's a
order.
safety issue. With the order from the judge, we will, and we've had them where we've not done them because the family has found out and we've shown up and there's 20 family members there waiting for them and our folks have turned around and left. We usually will do it, not during the visitation, but special, usually early in the morning before the rest of the family gets there.
You want a generic order, or you guys make?
Most of the judges have it, they're familiar with, we do quite a few of those. We do at least 6 or 8 of those a year. I got an order, I think I can send.
You got an order, you send me,
Yeah,
form order?
yeah.
And we've also had where they've been released temporarily and then have had to turn themselves back in.
Yeah, that surprises the heck out of me, especially on clients that are here because they haven't showed up.
Right.
I can imagine that would happen.
Yeah, that's a little more rare. Generally, that's, you're talking to somebody that's misdemeanor.
Send me that form of order. So I'll remind you, I'll email you.
Did you have a question?
What do you mean by coordinates substance abuse classes?
She gets a hold of like the instructors and sets like the dates and times for them.
What?
Our inmate services director sets the dates and times and the instructors for substance abuse classes.
Any idea when programming will begin?
Gonna depend on COVID.
What is the vaccination rate of the inmates and staff here at the jail?
It's changed, you know, we did vaccines, 2 or 3 rounds of vaccines, was it? And I mean, the inmates have come and gone, so I'm not sure.
Are the federal detainees under the same classification as the persons that are here just on state charges or whatever?
Depends on their federal charges.
We would get a classification just like.
Yeah, well, because the federal charges can range anything from like a white collar crime, you know, fraud to child molesting, kidnapping, stuff like that. So it's just going to depend on the severity of the crime.
They go through the same class system.
Yes,
right?
same, yes.
Same number.
Yep.
That's what I was kind of thinking, is the classification system, basically, whether they're into the maximum or the minimum or whatever, depending. If it's white collar crime, obviously, it's going to be the minimum as opposed to the maximum.
Right, they'll probably fall under, yeah.
Well, can a fed be a minimum since it's a hold?
Yeah.
Oh, they can't, okay.
Yep. We'll have
can't be
feds that come out.
Oh, that's what I was thinking.
It's all based on their charge. It's not like, oh, he's a fed, so boom, you're fed, all the feds get this. It's actually based upon their federal charge, so whatever their charge is, they'll be assigned that point value. So they'll fall in line just like the state inmates.
Anything else? Anybody else?
Does he fall under the same classification, like I said, after 30 days, if they don't have any monies or anything, do they get rescue package? or
Energy
whatever?
pack, yeah, yeah.
What kind of privileges do they receive? Minimal versus like max classification?
Minimum security gets to spend more time out in the day room. Maximum gets locked down earlier in the evening. They get more visits.
They had more visits,
Yeah.
but COVID kind of
Runs.
dampened all that stuff too, so.
Yeah.
COVID's put a hold on a lot of things here for us.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody? Okay. That's it.
We got one more. Charlie is going to talk about a program we started up. If anybody needs to leave, I know we went over. Feel free to go ahead.
You will get credit for the time.
You will get credit.
I will
However
request
long
it.
you're here.
Here you go. I was told to take 15 minutes and we're gonna make that a hard stop, but if anybody has to go, I started my clock. Now, pardon me?
You're getting bonus time.
All right, okay, great. All right, I'm Charlie Asher. It's great to be back in South Bend. We have created a unique, you might call it a super intake tool, and it responds to a problem that is so large, but has been with us for so long, I don't think we see it. And that is trying to get to know maybe the most important thing in a criminal case, and that is our client and our client's backstory. Why am I here talking to you about it? It's because of the roughly 7,000 secure facilities in America, 1,833, this is according to the Prison Project, state prisons, 1,833, 110 federal prisons, 3,134 jails, and 1,772 juvenile detention facilities. This one, led by these people, is the only one leading this, I think, groundbreaking pilot project whereby any attorney with a client incarcerated here can get a defense map. That's the name of this product. I've passed out to everybody, and Amy is going to make the email addresses of the Zoom audience and maybe all of you available. So I'll be able to contact you. Any questions you have, you can contact me at charlie@defensemap.com, or you can go to the defensemap.com website. There's a helpline link there, and I'm one of the 6 people that gets any message that goes to it. This is a completely free, completely confidential, fully bilingual resource that allows clients to work on their own, reflect on their own, reflect in private, not be under the supervising and invasive eye and peppering questions of we who want to find out. But very often, I don't know if you've ever been in an interview that someone else is doing, and you say, man, you know what's wrong with this interview? The questions. And not that there's something wrong with them, but just that the person is in a sort of an adversarial or cross-examinational role in this. And what we're finding out is that this tool allows people to reveal, I would estimate, between 3 and 10 times as much about themselves. They can work at their own pace, they can stop, they can reflect. They don't feel that they're under that pressure. By the way, we have about 20 attorneys in the country who are making regular use of it. One of our heroes is Jeff Kimmel, who is a regular user of it. But my reason for being here is really the leadership of this jail. Warden Julie Lawson, and now Warden Olmsted, and Assistant Warden, I'm going to get this right, Zawistowski. Close, okay, close enough, good enough. Okay, great, thanks. Have just been great to say, well, if you can put this on some kind of computer or laptop, and we've worked with our developers and put it on a Chromebook, turns out to be the best way to do it. Oh, well, and Troy, who could forget Troy's help on this, former PD. But if you could get this on a device that is secure, it doesn't create a security problem for the jail. Yeah, it looks like this is something that you need. So of the handouts that I gave you, the one I'd ask you to look at now would be the confidential defense map for Michael J. Peterson. We're just going to look at it just quickly. And actually, just on page 3, you'll see something called the flags page. There are over 850 possible questions asked by the website. And those actually get winnowed down because it works on a system of skip tracking. So depending on the answers that are given earlier on, the system knows not to ask other questions. But it not only gets the information, but it scans that information for issues, defenses, and mitigation, and then organizes it and puts it on this defense map. So on this flags page, you'll notice on the left-hand column, if this were color, that would be red. But that number one flag there is information supplied in support of pretrial release. And this, by the way, this is the names are changed, but this is from an actual client. And it's amazing the results people are getting. The actual clients. One of the cases that we discuss in one of our introductory memos is one that Jeff had in federal court, where, as you know, they don't dismiss anything, but he had a client charged with some child pornography and internet sex offenses, and he had him do a defense map. Jeff felt strongly enough that there was a lot of mitigation there, a lot of explanation, and not anything to hurt. And he sent it to John Machasik, the assistant United States attorney on the case, called Jeff. I think I can approximate what your conversations were, where he called Jeff and said, well, look, I'm moved by this, but these are, it says whatever it was. I think Jeff had estimated about 4.5 years of mandatory time, no probation, no parole. But he said, if you can get us, he told Jeff, if you can get a psychologist to back this up and get your guy into some treatment or something, I'll see what I can do. I can't say dismiss it. We don't dismiss hardly anything in federal court. But if you do that, I'll take it to our committee. Well, they work. At the end of it, they dismissed it. They dismissed it because of what was revealed here. Interestingly, the psychologist they used, I talked not just to Jeff and the prosecutor, but also to the client and then to the psychologist, Warren Sabilla, who practices here in town. And he had something interesting to say. He said, you know, when I interviewed this client, I didn't feel I was getting answers, but I kept writing down what he was saying. I tried to follow up, and I said, well, I'll go back and read my notes. Let me press on, and maybe in my notes. He said, you know, it wasn't in there. It was very hard to communicate with this guy. And then I went and read the defense map that Jeff had. He says, you know what? It was virtually all in there. It was in there. Not everybody communicates well. And I thought it was very interesting. Who was it? Brian? Was it Brian?
Right.
Ryan? Were you the one who said, or Officer Wisniewski, maybe you, who said, maybe I remind somebody of the person who assaulted them. Are they going to open up to me? Right. You know, and I think we make the mistake of, as a defense attorneys, thinking we're everybody's cup of tea. Anybody would want to talk. I'm a cheery, helpful guy, and I'm here to, be of benefit to them. But people don't open up to everybody. And in any event, Warren Sabilla, he said, there is an area of psychology called alternative capabilities. They have to use it with, or alternative capacities, sometimes called students who have learning disabilities sometimes have to use these, that they can't read, but orally they can hear out loud, and they can show competency, but they have to be tested by something other than paper and pen. But in any event, in number 1 here, it shows that on page 6, the information supplied in support of pretrial release, that there are 11 pro-release factors commonly overlooked in some risk assessment formulas. Section 2 talks about the client's sense of personal safety. We have a question about how safe do you feel right now? That may be because of a facility they're in, and they may be at liberty, but they have an abusive relationship that they're in. And this person, was incarcerated in a place where he wasn't safe. Did they have emergency needs? How correct and fair the client considers the charges? Obviously, none of the details are in here, but these kind of things. This is a person who was charged with a serious drug trafficking felony. He was a longtime drug addict. The underlying issue was he had been sexually abused by an uncle. And when he came to his family some years later, the family told him, shut up. We don't talk about that in this family. You deal with it. And he dealt with it by his drug use, which put him then in a criminal culture where he ultimately became a dealer. But in any event, you can look at all these different things that happen that come out, mood and functioning issues. The second to last of the flags, there's a very interesting one because it asks, are there areas of your life where you would like to make changes? Some things that you would like to do. And he cites 7 different areas of his life, and he describes within each of them steps he's already taken and steps he would like to take in those, and character and mitigation evidence. The 2021 Charlie would ask 1981 Charlie, did you know your clients? Do you know them? And I think I would have said, why? I guess I know them. I spent some time with them. But today I would ask, well, do you know which of them ever attempted suicide? I would have had to say, no. Only by accident would I know that. Do you know which of them had been sexually abused, physically abused, emotionally or verbally abused, and in what ways? I would have to say no. Do you know which of them suffer from PTSD? Which of them saw violence in their family, and specifically what it was and to what effect? Which of them ever saw people shot or stabbed? There was a study done in Shelby County, Tennessee a few years ago, because they're trying to find why their crime rate is out of control, their drug rates are out of control, their overdose rates are out of control, their dropout rates are out of control. They found that 37% of children in Shelby County, Tennessee, that's the home of Memphis, you may know, 37% see somebody, at least one person stabbed or shot. I grew up in an emotionally violent family, and there was some physical violence, but I never saw anybody physically stabbed or actually shot. We, I think, forget sometimes that for the most part, we are middle class and upper middle class people representing people very often who are from a poverty class and a poverty culture. And that they have had experiences that we can think we understand, but we don't. And we certainly don't have the details to get across what people like Jeff who are using this are able to get across. So let me just tell you, take some time. You can look at this sample map. You can go to FAQ number 1 at Defense Map, and it shows 2 tracks of learning this. One is one takes 10 minutes and one takes an hour. You have a fantastic opportunity to learn this, though, by doing the 3 simple steps on the front of this memo that I have under this section called Defense Maps from Clients at the St. Joseph County Jail. And you really need to do only 3 things, and you can do this in minutes. And these maps will come to you with no work on your part, no effort on your part. The clients will share more working alone. Now, obviously, you need to have a relationship and work with them and follow up and so forth. But I think you will be astounded, like the attorneys using this have been astounded, to find out how much they really do share. First thing you need to do in 1A there is just open an account on Defense Map. All of this is free. In the upper right-hand corner, there's a register logon. It takes literally 1 to 2 minutes, 1 to 2 minutes to open your free account. Second, 1B, there's consider using some version of the inmate notification appendix A or B, and you'll see my versions of that. I don't think at this point, Jeff, do you mail anything to your clients to say, I'm going to have the jail have you brought to, or do you just?
No, typically, I meet with them ahead of time. I'll try to with them ahead of time.
Yeah.
Talk to them about it,
Yeah.
and then, send the email and I
Right.
get it usually within a day or 2.
Yeah, I mean, they've been fantastic. They've been absolutely phenomenal. Jeff one day sent, I think, a list of 9 clients, and within 48 hours, Jeff had those 9 maps on his account. They automatically go to his account. But in any event, I would suggest either having a memo that you send to your clients or use a letter. And an example of each is in this appendix A and B that I just mentioned. And then C is simply send that email to Warden Olmsted at this address, RD Olmsted at blah, blah, blah. And he will get your clients over to the Chromebooks that have been programmed to reach just defensemap.com. And within a day, each of those clients, within a day or 2 at the most, each of those clients will have a defense. You will get an email to say, a new client of yours, Charlie Asher, has completed a defense map that is now on your account, ready for your evaluation. That's how you can get to know this. In part 2 on page 1 there, I show you how you can take all your at-liberty clients, in other words, the ones who are out on bond, and get all of them very, very simply. And you can hand this over to a secretary to do, or you can do it. But there's a link to an article that shows how you can get all your current clients, even ones that you've represented for a year. There's a wonderful video that Jeff made it's just 2.5 minutes long on the homepage of Defense Map. But he talks there about the first client he represented. It was somebody he had represented for a year, and he was a fellow veteran. He said, I liked him. I thought I knew him. And then Defense Map came along, and I sent him to this. I couldn't believe what I had not known about this person. All of that, I had to throw out the assumptions that I knew this person. I simply didn't. Hey, my time is up. I promised I would be done. You can take a look at the memo here on Appendix C is a summary of the benefits of Defense Map. This is limited only by your adversarial skills and imagination. And I think those are probably unlimited. By the way, and you can take a look at Appendix D, which we call the 6 iron barriers to client sharing, why this has never been counsel's fault. The last thing I'm saying is that it's our fault. We have not had a way. We have not had a way to find these backstories. We would virtually have to move in with our clients, but now we do have a way. And by the way, we ought to care about this for another reason, namely that the defense in this country, defense bar, has not had the well house of forensic tools to keep up with the advances on the prosecution side. Have you noticed what they have? It's amazing. I mean, they got cell tower tracking that we're this far from facial recognition that the government's going to know where we are. And they got our phones. They have our clients that think we have no access to. This is supposed to be a fair fight. It's not really, but that's not something you have to argue with the St. Joseph County Jail about, because some amazing people have said here you know what? This does look like something that would serve the interests of justice. It does look like something that would serve the better flow of case management. And it looks like something that, yeah, we would want our accused citizens to have available to them, not just to prove their innocence, but also to examine their lives and see what they might want to do about this. There's a ton we could talk about, such as the fact that there's a juvenile version of this, and I hope we can be talking about the JJC at some point adopting it. I have a call into Bill Brunsman about that, but that's for another day. Thanks very much.
How many of these maps that you've been doing, how many of these maps have you done?
15, 16.
How many?
15, 16.
15 or 16?
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeff's the only attorney who's, and by the way,
Really just, it's just been a few, it's been fairly.
yeah, this is very new, Dave.
We've had this a few weeks. We kind of kept it small to Jeff and anybody that Jeff could get to do it, and
Jeff doesn't like you.
and we wanted to make sure we had a system kind of in place and how this would function, and we did have to go through 2 sets of laptops.
Yeah.
And kind of did the trial run.
And we did say, we did ask the judge, don't just open this up to everybody, because lawyers who haven't learned about it and then they get this, say, who the hell sent my client, you know?
So you're kind of a focus group. We decided.
So all you
today.
need to do is send that email to Russ and you can have it. Okay.
Would this be worth doing a separate CLE just on?
We might continue to take baby steps with it, and I did think he oversold it, maybe a day, as soon as possible.
Let the maps come.
Yeah.
Don't sell this man short. I don't know. But no, Jeff sent that list one day.
Getting more, I'm sure it might take longer, but the ones I sent, I got them back.
Yeah, it's not like you have to wait for your client to come home from work either.
Yeah, nothing else to do.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Thank you
Just
very
real
much.
quick, I want to introduce myself. I'm Sergeant Finn. I'm the booking commander. Sorry for my tardiness. So my booking staff got hit by sickness, not COVID, just sickness. So I was down doing T&M court when this started. If you guys have any questions regarding out dates, court dates, anything like that, please reach out to me either by phone, email, 24 hours a day. My staff calls me all the time, so I can answer questions if you guys have them. I just wanted to introduce myself as well.
Thank you. Thank you. You're one of the coordinators. for us. And Troy's gonna give you everybody's contact.
Yeah.
So I'll send that out. It's trying.
The booking phone number is always that's a good place to start with, folks. You're not getting your answer, you can ask the supervisor. That's kind of what I tell people.
Thank you very much, and thank you for putting together such a big group that was able to give us so much information. Yeah, it was really helpful. Appreciate it.
Stress.